Get ready for The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's dedicated update show. Events, businesses, and people. Anything and anyone causing a ripple in the community. And now, let's dive in to The Splash Live.
Welcome to The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Dayan Chaaban. Dayan, we've made it to Wednesday. Good morning.
Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah, glad to have you on the show as we are on all throughout the week, beginning at 8:30 in the morning on a number of different outlets. Let's begin with on our cable television stations, the ones that keep the lights on in our local area. Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 in the Greater West Bloomfield communities. You can also find us online on CivicCenterTV.com in full high definition and watch us all throughout the mornings from 8:30 a.m. to right around 1 p.m. For each and every day of our show. You can also find us on Facebook, on Facebook.com/Civic Center TV 15, as well as on our YouTube page at Civic Center TV. Find us on the radio as well as you're driving into work and all throughout town this morning on 89.3 Lakes FM. That's all the places you can find us each and every day. Let's take a look outside and get a look at today's weather forecast with Dayan Chaaban. Dayan.
So Tyler, unfortunately, today we had a beautiful morning, but it doesn't look like it's gonna be sunny and beautiful towards the evening. So in the morning, we're gonna have partly cloudy mornings, and then it's gonna start raining through the late mornings or early afternoons. It's just a light rain, but as we go through the evening, there are warnings for severe thunderstorms. So it's in different areas. There might be heavy rain, so we're going to tell people to be careful. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. The highs are going to be 87 and 68, so we're not going to have low temperatures, but there are severe thunderstorms towards the evening. It's going to be the same for Thursday, partly cloudy mornings, and then there might be some rain scattered here and there with the chances of thunderstorm. Friday, it gets a little bit higher with a high of 91 and lows of 68. Less chance of thunderstorms, but there is chance of light rain.
And that's the weather forecast coming up for today. We'll have more on that severe weather going on later on in the show. Let's take a look at the headlines today. Of course, our top story is going to be severe weather possible in the afternoon and into the evening here in Oakland County and all throughout southeastern Michigan. We'll give you the details on that. Also on today's show, West Bloomfield High School athletics alums are going to be celebrated for the big game this year in October. We'll tell you about an event happening right here in West Bloomfield Township in October. Also celebrating another athlete in the Greater West Bloomfield community who has signed a Major League Baseball contract this week out of Orchard Lake, St. Mary's, and Duke University. We'll talk about that in just a little while. Additionally, making headlines today, we've been telling you all week about the ability you'll have in August to check out a person's story at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library's Human Library event. Victoria Edwards and Dayan Chaaban will talk about that in just a little while. Also, a high school graduate in Berkeley has their bronze sculpture taking center stage at the new Berkeley Art Space Plaza. Oakland County Water Resources has received funding for stormwater improvement projects. We'll talk to a West Bloomfield band that was recently named the #1 R&B band in the Detroit area by Reverb Nation. Bugs Beto will join us on today's edition of The Splash Live. In addition, we'll talk a little bit about history and preview a special presentation of the Sylvan Story happening on Thursday night at the Sylvan Lake Community Center with Deborah Glazer, one of the people that will be on Helen Jane Peters' panel talking about bus integration in the Pontiac area in 1971. Very interesting story. We'll tell you about that event near the end of the show today as we talk to Deborah and preview that happening Thursday at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. That's all that's making headlines today in Greater West Bloomfield. We'll dive into each of those stories and talk to many guests on today's edition of the program. Coming up, stay tuned. You're watching and listening to The Splash Live.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
It's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Dayan Chaaban. Our top story today is on the minds of everyone here in southeastern Michigan, as again, we're going to have some severe weather coming our way this afternoon and this evening. As Dayan said in our weather report this morning, going to be a beautiful morning outside, partly cloudy, very sunny, very warm, very humid. That's going to change this afternoon, pretty early on actually in the afternoon, with storm activity expected in lower Michigan to begin at about 2 p.m., spread throughout the local area, and turn severe around 4 o'clock this afternoon or beyond that. That window of the most severe weather is going to be 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. in our local area. Across southeastern Michigan, according to this graphic you're seeing on the screen from the National Weather Service, serving the Detroit area, that's out of their Pontiac/White Lake office. The most severe weather is expected to be between 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. today. And you should be ready to act on that. Expecting some very high winds, potentially damaging winds, 65 miles per hour or greater. Chance of hail, it could be significantly sized hail as well, up to 1 inch or greater is possible according to this report. And a chance of isolated tornadoes, although some meteorologists in the local area that I have read their reports on this so far, not expecting the tornado threat to be as significant as the hail threat, and certainly as the winds. The winds, the big one today. Wind and a lot of rain in the forecast for today in southeastern Michigan. That's, again, beginning about 2 p.m. as temperatures will climb into the high 80s this afternoon. You know, most of the average high temperature in the local area today around 84 degrees, but it'll climb even higher right around 2 p.m. as this storm comes in, and change in weather pattern, change in temperature, a big storm coming in, that is what can cause some of this severe weather. According to Derek Kevra from Fox 2 in Detroit, the biggest threat is going to be tornadoes, extremely high straight line winds, large hail, and flooding from the rain that's going to fall very quickly in our local area. He puts the worst weather between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. and the most likely window for significant storm activity beginning around 4 p.m. and lasting until midnight in the Detroit area. So there are pockets here and there that I've seen from other reports from outlets such as WDIV, or click on Detroit this morning, that are saying there is going to be a pocket where there may be some rain. It goes away in your local area. Check your local weather forecast for those times where there could be an hour or maybe 2 hours where there's light rain or no storm activity whatsoever. But keep in mind that 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. window today is where we're most likely to see severe weather, both here in Greater West Bloomfield, but also throughout much of southeastern Michigan. And Calvin, if you could put that graphic from the National Weather Service back up a moment, let's take a look at that so you get a better idea of which areas are most likely to get the most severe weather. These are the risk factors that are associated with this. They put it in color coding situations here. So the lightest green at the very top of that page, that's a chance for thunderstorms, not really anything too severe. You're going to see that up north if you're heading up north today for a very long weekend, or maybe you are up north, you have some family up north, they're going to get some rain. A little bit more of an elevated risk of severe weather in this storm as you get into the Cadillac area. But where we start to see the risk up the ante is around Midland through Saginaw, and then the biggest risk is going to be really from just north of Flint and Sandusky all the way down and through the Ohio border, and that includes us in this area. It is elevated risk today. That is the third out of 5 severity categories that are listed by the National Weather Service. Right in that middle point, elevated risk of severe weather in our area, in the Detroit area, in southeastern Michigan. Really anything below Saginaw today in lower Michigan, especially in the southeast side, is going to be at risk for these storms. And Diane, a lot of risk today, a lot of different potential for severity in this storm, much like we've seen a lot lately, where maybe some areas of Oakland County have gotten heavy rains, maybe heavy winds for a little bit, not necessarily that hail or tornadoes, but that hasn't been something unfamiliar to Southeast Michigan recently. So what are some things that people can do or should be doing now to prepare for this afternoon, just in case that severe weather does hit the hardest right here in Greater West Bloomfield and in Oakland County?
As you said, Tyler, thunderstorms are really unpredictable. So you never know how hard they hit, whether there's hail, whether there's not. So the best advice I can give to people is just to stay safe, stay sheltered. If you don't have to go out, do not go out, stay inside your house. And just in case there's hail or as you said, severe objects, just like, because hail can damage, and it did damage last week. It did damage a lot of properties. It did damage a lot of cars. So I advise people to stay away from windows, put their cars inside the garage, try to stay indoors again, stay in a sheltered area, and there are some flooded areas you should get away from. Do not drive through lakes that are prone to flooding. Do not drive through places where you see the water has flooded, because you don't know how deep it is. So these are some advices that people can take. Other things that I advise people to do is just, again, stay indoors. Always look for the weather news before going out. Stay updated on the weather in your area. Make sure that you know what's going on outside before you head out. And again, stay sheltered. Keep your pets and family safe indoors. Unless you need to go out, then please check the weather updates. If you have something, try to postpone it. And that's basically minimal advices we can give to people.
And if you're on Twitter or the X or whatever the heck they're calling it nowadays, they seem to change whatever they're doing over there every single day. Regardless, I digress. If you're on that particular social media outlet or you have access to that, a great person to go to today is Derek Kevra at Fox 2 News, at DKevra Fox 2. He's got a long report on that, a thread of tweets that he's made about this storm. And when we talk about the rain, you mentioned the chance for flooding and where people should avoid driving today, or what people should avoid on the roads if they're driving today and see pooled water later on, especially in the middle or after these storms, potential for damage or dangerous situations if they get into those flooded areas. Derek Kevra from Fox 2, his 6th tweet down in this thread says, 1 to 2 inches of rain could fall in just an 8-hour window. That could flood certain areas. Another great suggestion he's been making, clear those storm drains today so that water can get down into those storm drains, especially if it's going, since it's likely to be going there at a very quick rate. And Dayan, we talked about the high winds, about the hail that has potential to damage power lines, maybe even just simply knock out power in your home. So have those cell phones charged, get some batteries back into, change the batteries maybe in your flashlights, get everything set to go. Maybe turn off electronics you're not gonna use in case the power goes on and off repeatedly, so that there isn't any damage from power surges as power goes out and comes back because of these storms. All good advice. Thank you, Dayan, for that report, and we'll do our best to keep you updated if any details change related to Oakland County during this storm today. But again, good places to look include on all of our other local news outlets, Fox 2, WDIV, Channel 7, WXYZ, CBS News, Detroit. Of course, you can check with the local radio stations as well, as they're doing their regular reports throughout the day for the most up-to-date information. And another great place to go, where I would go for this, where we usually will go for all these weather reports, is straight to the source that's providing it to these different outlets, the National Weather Service at NWS, NWS Detroit. You're going to want to go to weather.gov/DTX, weather.gov/DTX. That'll give you information for the broader Detroit area, which includes reports for Oakland County. And on that website, you go into that website, you will have an option to put in your specific zip code or the zip code that you're going to be in later on today, and it will give you a regional report for that area from the National Weather Service, give you more isolated information on what you need to know in that certain area. So, maybe you are working out in the Saginaw area today and you're coming back into town this afternoon, this evening from your commute, right in the middle of where this storm window is expected to be. That's going to be somewhere you might want to check. You might want to check the weather report for Saginaw, as the timeline on this storm could be different there than it is here, and so on and so forth. Again, that link is weather.gov/DTX. Well, Also coming in later on this week, some more positive news after we get through the storms. We get to the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. That's coming in this weekend, but expect some road closures near the Orchard Lake corridor later on this week in the Town Center District. You're seeing signs going up all throughout the community. Here's one in Kego Harbor. No further closures there from construction and from the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, just the construction traffic in that area of town. But you can get away from that and get to the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show a little bit closer. Another sign went up over the weekend on Orchard Lake Road in West Bloomfield Township. You can see that in this picture flying over Orchard Lake Road as drivers are going northbound on Orchard Lake earlier on this week. But the road closures aren't going to be on the main roads necessarily. They're going to be on some of the back streets around where we're seeing the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show this weekend. That will be on the physical Powers and Daily roads in West Bloomfield Township. There's Patty Narosny putting up some notices in some of those local neighborhoods, the Chimney Hill neighborhood in particular, right directly behind Powers and Daily Road is going to be affected in particular by the road closures as a result of this particular event. That is going to begin on Friday. Those road closures Friday, July 28th through Sunday, July 30th, in order to make way for the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show to come into town. Of course, the art show proper on Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. And then, of course, shortly after 5 p.m., probably to around 7, 8 o'clock, you'll see those roads continue to be closed as they tear everything down from the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show, clean up the roads, and then the Road Commission for Oakland County reopens all of this. From the West Bloomfield Police Department yesterday on Facebook, they wrote Powers Road from Orchard Lake to Daly Road, and then Daly Road from Powers to just north of Chimney Hill Drive. Near the Maple Orchard intersection will be closed July 28th through the 30th for the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. During the closures, the detour routes will be Orchard Lake Road to Maple Road, Maple to Daly, and then Daly to Chimney Hill Drive and vice versa in order to get in and out of that Chimney Hill neighborhood in particular. You can find more information on the Orchard Lake Fine Art Show at hotworks.org and find more information on these road closures either by following West Bloomfield's Police Department on Facebook or the Road Commission for Oakland County, all of which can give you more details on specifics and detours if you are going to be affected by Orchard Lake Fine Art Show traffic. We'll take a break on the Splash Live. On the other side, a really cool event coming to the West Bloomfield Township Public Library's main branch in just a couple of weeks. Dayan Chaaban will talk to someone from the West Bloomfield Township Library and preview that event coming up. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Splash Live.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Hey guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live. This is Dayan Chaaban along Tyler Kieft. So we've been talking about this incredible event coming to the West Bloomfield Public Library on August 12th. The Human Library. It aims to create a more inclusive and cohesive communities across cultural, religious, and social and ethnic differences. We've got Victoria Edwards, one of the organizers with the West Bloomfield Library. Hello, Victoria. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Victoria, can you tell us a little bit more about the Human Library event?
Yeah, so this is an event where people who visit the library have an opportunity to check out a person instead of a paperback. So the idea is to create conversations around topics and with people who you might not normally be able to interact with on your day-to-day.
Now, Victoria, from what I've understood, the Human Library event is a collaboration. It's not just in West Bloomfield or in the U.S. It's in 6 continents and in more than 80 countries. So it was an initiative that started in Denmark, as far as I know. And I just want to know what brought it to West Bloomfield, what inspired our community members to bring it here to West Bloomfield, and how does that help West Bloomfield overall? Because it's only happening in West Bloomfield and San Diego in the U.S., so that's like a huge event. It's not just a normal local event that we're doing here annually.
Yeah, there are a lot of places around the U.S. that have hosted human libraries in the past. I actually brought one to my undergrad institution when I was at Saginaw Valley State University. So I have had some experience with these in the past, and it was actually my first experience working sort of in the library environment. So now I'm working for the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, and I've really gotten to know this community well. This seems like a great fit for the community. I mean, we have such a diverse population here in West Bloomfield, and people are really interested in asking these kinds of questions and getting to know their neighbors better. So I started organizing this and figured I'd kind of see what interest we had from the community, and we've had a lot of volunteers step up to serve as human books and work with us and work with the Human Library Organization as well. We are partnered with the organization in Denmark to offer this. So they offer some training and some assistance to us in promoting this event as well.
That's an incredible thing. I've seen a little bit about all these training stuff. So can you tell us a little bit, was it hard to recruit all these volunteers? You said that a lot of people came up, but how was it like trying to talk to them about this idea? Because I understand from my perspective, it's very hard to come into just facing a person and telling them your life story. So how does this training come into place? How does this training help these people talk about their life experiences? And how hard was it to recruit these volunteers?
Yeah, so I think recruiting volunteers is always the most difficult part. We're fortunate in our experience here at West Bloomfield, I was able to get some assistance too from someone who helped facilitate human libraries at Oakland Community College, and who was able to reach out to some of their past participants who've already volunteered as human books as well. But then we put it out in our usual our usual platforms. We had information about it in our newsletter that is distributed to everyone who lives in our service area. We had some information about it as well on social media, in our e-newsletters, all sorts of ways like that. So we had people kind of find out about it through a lot of different ways. And it's been a wonderful experience hearing all these different stories. We do have a bit of an interview process, sort of vetting to make sure that people understand the concept and that they know kind of what they're committing to when they offer to volunteer for this. Of course, it is all voluntary. So, we have the utmost respect and care for our volunteers who are participating. And I have so much respect for them as an individual, just being willing to tell their stories and talk about some of their life experiences. We were able to work with a lot of different organizations in the community as well to make sure that we had some diverse representation at this event.
That's super interesting. So, as you mentioned, their volunteers are respectful and they are trained to do what they do. They are trained to tell their life experiences. Is there any guidelines or rules for the people coming in to meet the volunteers to ensure these volunteers' safety and well-being?
There are, yeah, that's a great question. We have a sort of set of guidelines that people can read through when they first come to the Human Library. And it has rules like, all of our books, our human book volunteers are currently in mint condition, and we expect them to be returned that way. Things of that nature. Each conversation is about 30 minutes. If nobody is waiting and both the volunteer and the reader want to continue having this conversation, they can ask to extend the loan, and that's something that we can do as well. So there's all sorts of different rules, but it's all using the library context to create a safe space to have this sort of dialogue.
That's very interesting. But Victoria, are there any resources to help those people in case they were, I would say, emotionally damaged? Are there any resources they can go to after their experiences with the people they're meeting?
For the people who are coming in and visiting as readers? For the volunteers, yeah, I mean, the goal is for their comfort and safety. We have built-in breaks that they have space where they can go to decompress privately. You know, they're not obligated to continue having these conversations if they start to find them too exhausting. And that's something that we emphasize to them too. They're welcome to go out, take a walk on our trails, just take a break. We've got, you know, some food that we're going to be bringing in too, courtesy of the Friends of the Library. They've offered some assistance to help support these volunteers and help them know that they're welcome and that we're happy that they're sharing their stories.
Victoria, you told me a little bit about the volunteers, and you said that they have shared their stories with you before going into the whole experience. So I was wondering, what are some of these experiences? What should people expect, those readers that are going to read those human libraries, those human books with their experiences? What do you expect? Like, what are the expectations of the readers?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different titles, as we call them, available, different topics for conversation. The Human Library Organization does ask that we not share any of those titles in advance because of two reasons. First of all, they are volunteers, so they are able to drop at any time, and I don't want anyone to be disappointed if they were really excited about a particular conversation, and then they come and realize that that individual has not been able to come out that day. And then the second reason is just for the safety and well-being of some of these stories as well. Some of them are very personal in nature, and I don't want anyone to be exposed to something that they might not be comfortable with. But we do have a wide diversity of stories available in all sorts of contexts. We have a lot of different religious and ethnic representation in our human library right now, and a lot of people who have different sort of life situations, different things that have happened to them that they're want to share their story about to help other people understand what it's like to go through something like that, whether you've been through something similar or whether you haven't been through anything like that at all and you're curious to hear what that story might be like.
That's very interesting. I totally understand. I was just looking for those headlines like the bias, prejudice, and that's
yes.
That's just incredible. Of course, we should protect these volunteers. It's incredible that they're volunteering in the first place, telling their story, because it goes beyond them. I understand it's so hard for people to express their feelings and talk about their personal experience. I mean, again, this is super personal. This is heartfelt and emotional, but the bigger picture is they're supporting a more inclusive environment here in West Bloomfield. And as you said earlier, Victoria, it is a very diverse religious area, very diverse ethnic area, and overall it's just beautiful and diverse, and we should create this inclusivity. I think this event is incredible, and I've been urging people to go there for like a couple days. One more thing, Victoria, I would like to hear from you. What do you aspire to get towards the end of this experience? Like, for you and for the organizers, I'm sure you are, this is a volunteer thing, so I'm sure you are aspiring to achieve something towards the end of this event.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to help promote some relationships that might not be able to develop outside of this event. You know, when people have a chance to talk with each other and get to know each other better, I think we all come to understand each other a little bit better, even if it's not someone who is from our community per se, or who we might share an identity with. And when we come to understand each other better, that's how we create a more inclusive community, a more welcoming community, which I think is what so many people in West Bloomfield here want this community to look like.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. Again, the Human Library happening at West Bloomfield Public Library, August 12th. It's running from 10 a.m. until 3:30. Be there. It's an incredible experience. Again, it's for the whole community, supporting our community, supporting every citizen in this community, and creating a more inclusive, a more beautiful community, as Victoria said. For more information about this event, you can visit the WBLIB.org, the West Bloomfield Library website. Look into upcoming events. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for being with us and sharing this incredible experience, organizing this beautiful event. We look forward to seeing you there, and we look forward to seeing those incredible volunteers. Again, thank you for the volunteers who are doing this. That's just incredible. This is the Splash Live. We're coming back with a lot more news and a lot of fun events in our community. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. And now, back to the Splash Live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Dayan Chaaban. We love our sports here in Greater West Bloomfield, and man, do we have some powerhouse programs in many different sports at West Bloomfield High School, at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and many other schools, both here in the Greater West Bloomfield community and throughout Oakland County. Some of our local athletes will be celebrated during the big game this year in October, the big Michigan State versus Michigan football game. It's all MSU in this house over here. My apologies. The House Divided event will be happening in West Bloomfield Township. That is being put on by Extra Point Solutions, a company ran by West Bloomfield High School football alum Nick O'Shea, who you may recognize from just a few years ago on the football field, a great kicker for the West Bloomfield Lakers. This House Divided NIL watch party will be at West Bloomfield Middle School. The time is to be determined. It's all going to be based on when that game ultimately will happen in the day and when they can get in to West Bloomfield Middle School, but tickets are on sale already. Here are the three athletes that they are going to be supporting. You can see it in this graphic on your screen on civiccentertv.com as well for replays. Trey Mosley, my guy, Trey Mosley, Ice Trey himself at Michigan State University in the green and white 1-7. In the middle, University of Michigan cheerleader Peyton Harvey, and then on the far right, the newest member of the Michigan football team, Samaj Morgan, and the Maize and Blue 12. All three going to be celebrated at this event, and proceeds will in part go to each of them through their name, image, and likeness proceeds that are now legal at the collegiate level in Division I through the NCAA. And so you're helping our local athletes, you're supporting our local athletes and their other endeavors. We know Samaj Morgan putting a lot of his NIL funds toward the Samaj Morgan Foundation, helping local kids and families. Very similar efforts happening from Peyton, who you saw there in the middle, as well as Trey Mosley at Michigan State. Here's a video you're seeing on your screen there. Save the date, October 21st. Here they are, back at the Swamp, getting ready for that event, teasing that event. You saw Trey, you saw Peyton, and you saw Samaj on the field there at West Bloomfield High School. Certainly we'll see them back more often all throughout the year. Samaj and Trey, both some of the best receivers we've ever had at West Bloomfield High School. Again, that event going to be happening on the day of the game, October 21st. The time is to be determined, but you can find more information and purchase tickets on extrapointsolutions.com/events. Extra is spelled with just an X at the beginning. It's XTRA, pointsolutions.com/events. Single tickets for $30 get you a ticket, get you a t-shirt, like the ones you were seeing being worn by these 3 prolific West Bloomfield alums, as well as food options on site during the big game. You can also get a pack of 4 tickets in a family pack, 4 tickets, 4 t-shirts, and food options for $100. Again, more information, extrapointsolutions.com/events. And as we get more information on this, we'll bring more to you. And as we get closer to the event, we'll talk with Nick O'Shea also. We'll try to get him on the show to talk about what he's doing at Extra Point Solutions. We've discussed that a little bit recently on the show, helping collegiate athletes and high school athletes get ready for the next level, and as they're at the next level, to market themselves, and also putting on this great event, as he's also still right here in the West Bloomfield area helping out at West Bloomfield High School and with the football team. On the other side of town, in Orchard Lake Village, Orchard Lake St. Mary's athlete and alum Alex A.J. Mooney, who's currently playing baseball at Duke University, was selected recently in the 7th round of the MLB amateur draft by the Cleveland Guardians. He is an infielder, a prolific infielder for the Duke Blue Devils, drafted in the 7th round, and here he is, signing his official Major League Baseball contract to be part of the Cleveland Guardians organization. He's here signing his contract. We have another picture. There he is with his parents. Again, an Orchard Lake St. Mary's graduate, signed a contract, will be moving through the minor leagues on his way, hopefully, to the big leagues. We'll see him very soon, although it's going to be tough for us to have to root against him when he comes into town to play for the Tigers. Hey, look, AJ can get on base. No one else from the Guardians. They don't score any runs. Tigers win the ball game. AJ has a good day. Everybody's happy here in the greater West Bloomfield community on that day. We hope to see that very soon. Congratulations to Mooney, who had a great sophomore season at Duke University. Hit .315, a team high 68 runs scored, 20 doubles, 80 hits. Was hit by pitches 19 times, which is dangerous for those other pitchers, more dangerous than even for AJ getting hit by those pitches, as he stole 21 bases while starting all 63 games last year at Duke. No wonder such a high draft pick in the 7th round of the MLB amateur draft by the Cleveland Guardians. Dayan, great to see such good news from our West Bloomfield and Orchard Lake St. Mary's alums here in our local area, where athletics are becoming more prolific over time. We're seeing more of these athletes move on to the next level, and this time now seeing Orchard Lake St. Mary's grad A.J. Mooney now moving on into professional baseball. Really the second athlete in recent years, alongside Matthew Judon and NFL football player, defensive lineman, and linebacker also with the New England Patriots at the next level. Always great to see people making big accomplishments after they leave us here in WB.
Absolutely. It's very beautiful to see those young athletes that we used to see in our schools right here locally grow into these big stars. Hopefully they will even get bigger stars. They will get drafted into bigger teams. That's incredible. That's always an incredible news to see. And it's always also, Tyler, I'm sorry I'm cutting off, but it also inspires. It inspires these younger generations to do better in their schools and to just like follow the lead of these superstars. I mean, hopefully they are already superstars and they'll get bigger and bigger. So that's just inspiring and just beautiful for a whole community.
I'm not familiar with A.J. Mooney, given that a lot of what we focus on sports-wise here, at least during these seasons and as we're calling these games, is particularly on the football, the basketball, baseball teams at West Bloomfield High School, and the other athletics also at West Bloomfield High School. But I can say certainly in the case of Samaj Morgan and in the case of Trey Mosley, and I would presume also, although I'm not entirely familiar with Peyton Harvey directly, that they're all heavily involved still in the community, being a part of this community while they were at West Bloomfield High School, continuing to do so after they've graduated with several different events and camps and so on here at West Bloomfield High School. Again, they have continued to be big community people, both in the greater West Bloomfield area, in East Lansing and in Ann Arbor, and all throughout the state of Michigan. So making an impact both on and off the field. Just moving things around a little bit here, Calvin, want to let people know that while the Marshbank Music Series is scheduled for tonight at Marshbank Park for the third of their 5 concerts this summer, with a rain date already scheduled for August 9th after their first concert a few weeks ago had to be moved due to the weather, you might want to keep a lookout on wbparks.org. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead while I'm saying this and navigate to their website to see if there's any announcements on that. So far, no, but stay tuned to their website, wbparks.org, for information. Given that that is right within that thunderstorm window from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. and most of the severe weather we can expect in our area, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., you may want to check before you go to Marshbank Park tonight for those concerts. Those could be canceled, that could be rescheduled for later on in the week, or potentially for another rain date later on in the summer. Just something to keep an eye out on for later on. Also, as we are about to go to break here, but before we do, a really cool picture we saw on social media from our friends at the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, putting up a map from way back in 1872 showing a lot of our local area here in Oakland County, and of course in the Lakes area. You can see at the top right section, the top right quadrant of that, Cass Lake, Orchard Lake, and Pine Lake, all visible there. You can see Upper Straits Lake as well. This is a map from 1872's Atlas of Oakland County. It was published by F.W. Beers, 13 school districts, property lots, buildings, and building owner names. And you can get a copy of this for just $10 from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society and help them preserve even more local history from those proceeds. gwbhs.org is the place to go for more information on all of that. Well, while we're on the topic of history, we'll take a break, and on the other side, even more history for you to learn about right here in our local area. A big presentation coming to the Sylvan Lake Community Center on Thursday night. You won't want to miss that. We'll get plenty of details from that. Deborah Glazer, who is one of the panelists that will be part of that discussion tomorrow night, will join us after this break. You're watching and listening to The Splash Live.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut, the one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink, or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking, now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed, better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead, catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
And now, back to The Splash, live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Dayan Chaaban and our whole team here at Civic Center TV. One of our favorite things to look at all throughout our community is the extensive history we have in all 4 communities here in Greater West Bloomfield and branching out even further into other parts of Oakland County. A great place to do that is at the Sylvan Lake Community Center for one of their periodic Sylvan Story events hosted by Sylvan Lake historian Helen Jane Peters. A really cool one coming up on Thursday night. We'll even have our team out there to get a report on that for an upcoming edition of the Splash Live. And joining us now is one of the panelists that will be talking about a big story that was making news in our local area back in 1971 as bus integration became a hot point issue in Oakland County, in the Sylvan Lake, and certainly in the Pontiac area especially. Joining us now is Deborah Glazer on the Splash Live. Deborah, thanks for joining us today to talk about what's going to be going on tomorrow night at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. A really interesting story to be talking about with panelists from throughout our community who are experts on what happened back in 1971.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on because this is a really interesting story. Yeah, it's a really interesting story that you're going to be getting into with Helen Jane and with the panel. So just give us some background on just how hot of an issue bus integration really was in our local area back in 1971.
Well, so what makes this super interesting is that this was the first time that mandated busing was implemented in the North. So most people are familiar with Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. When you mention Ruby Bridges, people know that. But what people have not heard about is the group, which is a group of 12-year-old kids, 7th graders at Jefferson Junior High, who, during forced busing, formed a student-led club to rally in favor of promoting racial understanding and unity in one of the most violent desegregation events during that era. So I was born at Pontiac General. I grew up in my formative years in Pontiac. I was not a part of the group, but my older brother was. And so this event really shaped my childhood in many ways. I was on the periphery, but I remember it very well. And the kids, it was such a hot button at that time that when the media got hold of it, the kids were sent on press junkets. They were sent to Washington to testify. And I remember all of that. And my brother was in Time magazine. And so growing up, I think in every library, I always went into the stacks to find his article, and I was always fascinated with it. So I've been producing for many, many years, and really shifted into filmmaking, particularly documentary filmmaking. And this is a story I've wanted to tell. I think people need to know about it. It's unique because it's a neat story told through the eyes of adolescents. So there are many, many stories during the civil rights era. Technically that ended in 1968. So even though civil rights, I think, we're still at that point where we're fighting for civil rights, right? For equality. But in 1970, when the mandate was originally issued by the Honorary Dayan Kieft, it wasn't implemented until 1971, the school year of 1971. I lost my train of thought for a second there. There's so much in this topic.
There really is. There's a lot to unpack here, Deborah, and that's why they're having this Sylvan Story special presentation of this tomorrow night. It's happening Thursday night, 7 o'clock at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. It is free. It is open to the public. People attending are encouraged to attend to talk about this before and after and get their questions answered because, like you said, what's so interesting about this story isn't how it played into the immediate post-civil rights, technically, era in our local area, but the fact that, while the adults were screaming at each other, it was these kids who were coming together to solve this super complex issue that had been affecting our country and even affecting in this case, specifically our local area for so long. And so tell us about the panel, the people that are going to be speaking about this with you and with Helen Jane, and the stories they have to tell about this era in our history.
Well, you have to remember, like, this is the core level of humanity, the lowest level, right? These 12-year-old kids who knew better than to perpetuate hate. So tomorrow's panel will be, you know, we're not experts on busing. I'm not an expert on busing. But first, let me explain what these kids did that makes it so unique. You know, they shut off the adults. They're like, hey, we're the ones who are going to school. We're the ones who need to make it work. And that became their motto. We can make it work. And they were kind of known, they called it the Jefferson Club, but it was really the group. We can make it work. So the kids, there will be, I call them the kids, even though we're not kids. They'll be talking about what they did. And what's so cool about it is that they created a show and they danced to the songs of the Jackson 5. They created skits about racial understanding, and they toured the state of Michigan. And thousands of kids signed a pledge for their 6 rules that they created for how to get along. And so their stories are fascinating. I mean, and everybody has one. You know, if I were to put it out there, I would get, you know, hundreds of people just saying, oh yeah, I remember I did that. Oh, I remember this, I remember that. So tomorrow night, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about the setup of, you know, how they got where they are and how it affected them. Because really, it's been said that busing was a failure. And if you talk to them, they'll say, you know what? They have no idea what they did for us. They thought they were taking something away, and really they gave them the world.
And we've seen the progress that has come from events like this, things that had happened in our history, in our local area that parallel what happened in other areas of the U.S. and other areas of the world, the impact that has. And also, finally, Deborah, before we let you go today, I just want to talk about, it's important to have a conversation on a story like this because in so many ways, it does parallel a lot of what has been going on in our recent times, certainly over the last few years, but continues to be part of the vernacular discussion in our community on these issues today. And being able to parallel that and localize that is really important, not just for communities like Sylvan Lake and for Pontiac, but really for communities all across the country.
Yes, absolutely. I wish I could say that a lot has changed. There's a saying that says, you know, so much has changed that nothing has changed. We actually, I feel like we're going backwards. But you know, stories like this are what bring a community together. And when you have a history, understanding it helps us not rewrite that same script, right? Let's write a new one. And in this, I think there's a nugget of inspiration for kids today. You know, this might sound trite that children are our future, but they really are. And maybe there's something in here from the 12-year-old kids that they were that would inspire a new generation to make a change, to be better. I can't believe that we're still talking about equality. I mean, that should have been a non-issue from the beginning. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, a lot, so much has changed that nothing has changed. It's only been a little over 50 years since this had 52. Been going down, since these events of 1970. Yeah, 52 years. It's only been 52 years. And if you put it in that context, you think about now, that's not that long of a time historically speaking. That's not that long of a time speaking in terms of our day-to-day lives. And so really important to have these sort of stories out in our community to localize this. And that's exactly what Deborah and the team of panelists with Helen Jane Peters will be doing at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. Again, that is 7 o'clock for the presentation. Doors open around 6:30 for refreshments, a little pre-discussion. There'll be some time to ask some questions after the presentation and mix and mingle as well. And it will include Cheryl Toby, who is one of the leaders of that group back in 1971, currently living in Sylvan Lake. Deborah, thank you so much for giving us a look into this event, and we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night at the Sylvan Lake Community Center.
Thank you. I just want to say one other thing too. If anyone is interested in sponsoring the documentary, you can reach me, contact me at windwardfilms.com, windward, WINDWARD films.com. Send me a note. We are hoping for sponsorship. I think this is a wonderful message that the world needs to hear.
It's a great story to tell. We appreciate you helping to tell this story, and of course would encourage people, if they have the means to do so, they want to support getting this story out there and contextualizing it even into today. A great way to do that is by supporting Deborah's film. We'll see you tomorrow night at the Sylvan Lake Community Center. We'll take a break on the Splash Live. On the other side, a couple more stories to get to, and then we'll wrap things up for the day. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show. We'll be back.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live. Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live again. This is Dayan Chaaban and alongside Tyler Kieft. So very exciting events happening this Saturday at Berkeley High School. The Art Space Plaza in Berkeley's downtown near the high school is going to be opening this Saturday at 10 a.m. It's going to feature the renowned, I'm not going to say international so far, but the renowned artist, Austin Brantley, who was a graduate of Berkeley High School in 2013. Brantley is now 26 years old. He's been collaborating with artists internationally, and he's been displaying his beautiful sculptures all over the United States. So this artist has created a beautiful bronze statue called Walking Together that represents the youth resilience and the beauty of youth, their innocence. And in his words, the sculpture is crafted to showcase the bright, confident spirit of young student, and it captures the essence of teenagers' journey towards self-discovery that evokes a feeling of nostalgia for our own memories of adolescence. So that's a beautiful bronze statue that's going to be displayed in Berkeley High School, near Berkeley High School. As you can see in the picture, it's facing Berkeley High School. There's going to be other sculptures and other art pieces from students in Berkeley High. This event is a collaboration between the DDA and Berkeley High School, so there's going to be a lot of figures from our community. It's going to be a beautiful space, a beautiful landscape. The whole idea is to try to create a more beautiful landscape and beautiful area for these students to look into a more inspiring artistic pieces. So that's an incredible event. I urge everybody to go and watch it. It's, again, 10 a.m. at Berkeley High School, facing Berkeley High School. Austin Brantley is going to be there. Austin Brantley, again, is a very renowned artist. It's a great opportunity to go and meet him, especially for our young artists out there in the community.
Yeah, and Diane, we talked about that a little bit with Deborah Glazer, the impact that kids can have on the community. So seeing that sculpture, the way it's aligned at Berkeley High School, a reminder for the students of the nostalgia of their youth, to capture that time in their life, but also the impact they can have on our communities, using the education, some of which they do get inside those doors at Berkeley High School. That is going to do it for today's edition of The Splash Live. As always, you can stay with us all throughout the morning up to about 12:30 p.m., 1 o'clock in the afternoon for the latest news and updates. And join us live every morning all throughout the work week at 8:30 a.m. For Dayan Chaaban, Calvin Brown, our entire team at Civic Center TV, this is The Splash Live.